thank you for everybody that's coming. I say God's came. So where do we start? It started in April of this year. I got a random email from a lady named Jamie Stark. Jamie Stark, her husband's a paraplegic. I've been on several missions with her. I think the last I've seen her, we were in Peru, and we were talking. We were stuck at an airport and waiting for a thing for like 6-7 hours. But so we had time to talk, and we got talking, and she kind of like talked to me and wanted to do more than just the mechanic side of it. So we got to talking and see if we were interested in going to El Salvador in May. This was April. And I said, a little quick, isn't it? She says, well, the people that were supposed to do it had family problems, so they had to bow out. So in walks us. Donna sat there. We prayed about it, and we finally said, heck yeah, let's do it. You know, we can do this. So we started jumping through all the hoops. And got within 2 weeks to go. Everything was ready. Had a fantastic team built. Great therapists and mechanics going and everything. And the containers weren't going to be there, so they ended up having to call the trip.
So flash forward to July 10th, and we're headed off to El Salvador. This was not going to be a regular outreach. To start it off on our flights down, we had one STM that missed her original flight. We had another STM miss a connecting flight. So the majority of the team arrived in El Salvador, and then we had to go back later on. We didn't have to, but we sent a driver to go back later that night at like 11:30 at night to pick up one team member, and then the next team member couldn't come in until the next morning. But this outreach was going to be special. On this trip, Johnny and friends were going to give away their 200,000th wheelchair, and we got to be there. Along with most of the staff at Johnny and Friends, we had the president and chief operating officer, John Nugent.
That would be, let's see, here's this is John Nugent.
Go one more slide. John Nugent. We also had the vice president of Global Operations, Jason Holden. We had the vice president of marketing, Donna Lucas. And we had the director of Wheels for the World, Paul Dorfalina. And then we had 3 members of the visual media team that went with us on the trip to capture this 200,000th wheelchair.
So we had quite the crew. But unfortunately, with us having to move the trip, we lost therapists and we lost mechanics. We only had 2 therapists there. And really, we only had like 2 or 3 good mechanics. So 2 mechanics, then there was me. I got thrusted into the role again. But the mechanics, but as it would work out, God knew everything was going to happen, what was going to happen, and everyone, therapist-wise, we had a lot of team members from the in-country partners and stuff like that. We had a lot of those guys come in, a lot of people from that. And the guys that we had a couple of guys, at least one guy that was going to be doing support, which he would be doing some of the cushions. He would cut the wood and stuff like that, or run and get parts and stuff like that from different wheelchairs and stuff like that. He ended up taking a full mechanic role, and he did a fantastic job. So I can't complain about that a bit. During that, this was our team here. There's a couple of people in it. I'm off the mic. A couple of people in it that this was these guys right here were all of our team members from the United States. This is Daniela from. She was our in-country interpreter. She was a helper. A couple other ones here. Another guy, Marcus Freed, Donna and I. Danielle, Dale Cleese, he was another therapist. She was a fabulous seamstress along with Donna. This is Paul again, and John. It's our great guy, Jim Mason. This is another mechanic, Bernie, and Ed. This guy here, if you ever met him, you would love this guy. He's just one big smile all the time. And he's just a great guy. He takes pictures, and he's a prayer warrior for everybody. And you can't have a trip without the guy. He's kind of like your lucky penny. But during that, during the first days, normally you get there Saturday, everybody's getting there Saturday, and usually everybody gets to the hotel, you get something to eat, and you go to bed. Next day, we got church, and you go to the what do you call it? The church. You go to church, you get that done, and then you go over and you take all the wrappings off the chairs, make sure everything's good to go and stuff like that. Doesn't happen that way. It's the way it works. Because late things coming in and the way things were forming, we decided to usually we do our cultural day at the end, like on a Friday or a Saturday, and then we go out. Because of the way everything was changing, fluid, we ended up taking our day and moving it into Sunday. We went to church, and we went out to go see the town and sightseeing and stuff like that. We did that, and that turned out to be fantastic, and that's the way I want to do it from now on, because it was a huge team building. This was our church service. It was at a hotel, and quite an extravagant room here. Kevin would be jealous to have this kind of a deal here.
Band.
Let's see if I can. Probably should have turned that up a little bit because it was deafening. But during our thing, we like I said, the team bonding. I mean, we had a great time. We went and had pizza at a place and whatnot. This was another great meal we had at. We went to like a market of a lot of the culture of El Salvador, and everybody got to get together. We had a good time doing that. A lot of new friendships were formed with everybody, and it was just like I said. It really got everybody together to figure out how everybody was and how everybody was going to mend, and it worked out beautifully, as God would always know.
So Monday came, and it didn't disappoint us. It was hot, humid, sunny, and everyone was ready to get the day done. By lunchtime, we thought we were doing great. Normally when you're on an outreach, you do 40, maybe 50 wheelchairs a day. Danielle, our interpreter, came to us and said that we needed to start putting patients through faster because we were way behind. And so we asked, how many chairs have we done? Because we thought we'd pump them out. She said, well, you've done about 53. And it's lunchtime. We're like, well, great. We're usually there until 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we figured, we've already done 53. We got to be close. So we asked her, how many did we have scheduled? And she says, you have 85 scheduled for today. So we're like, okay, let's take a step back. We all need to talk. So we went and talked. We pulled Paul in because he was in on the back stages of the planning with our in-country partner as far as getting the containers of wheelchairs down there. And we pulled in the in-country partners in Israel and trying to figure out where the misunderstanding was, because we never do 85 chairs in a day. But they thought because they had 2 shipping containers that we were to give away both shipping containers. And in a shipping container is 240 chairs, plus walkers, canes, crutches, So basically they were figuring that on this trip we were going to do 480 wheelchairs. But when they got that second container, when we were supposed to go in May, and we found out that the first container was on a slow boat to El Salvador,
Literally.
they set a second container on a faster ship to get there in time for us to go in May.
And it beat it. That's how bad it was.
And so when both containers arrived, they assumed that we were doing both containers. So on that first day, most of the 85 recipients were already there. So we had to get them through. We couldn't send them home. Some had traveled hours and hours to get there and wait for their chairs. So they felt that, so we ended up doing 81 wheelchairs on Monday. And we finally left about 8 o'clock at night, and we were exhausted. But we knew that we couldn't sustain doing 80 plus chairs a day, because that's what they had scheduled us for each day. But they kept telling us that if we cut back, Johnny and friends, and also Isri, would get a black eye. They would think that the government's trying to keep their chairs, or we don't want them to have their chairs, or we've done something else with their chairs. So we're like, we've got to do something because there's no way we can keep this pace. So, in steps God. At that time, the government, the Delta variant down in El Salvador was starting to ramp up, and the government came out with new COVID rules Monday night, stating that we could only have half of the amount of people in groups than what was planned those next 4 days. So God saved the day, and everything got cut in half, which gave us about 40, 45 wheelchairs a day to do.
So again, we were doing the 200,000th wheelchair while we were down there. They decided to have it on Wednesday. Little guy named Levy came in. I can't show pictures of him because Johnny and Friends is going to put a whole thing together and send it out. So we were asked not to publish any pictures of the boy and his family. But that was pretty big. Again, I'm not a big shindig person, so I kept my head low. This is the wheelchair that he ended up getting. There's some things I can show. There's Dale Cleese and the vice president of
he's the vice president of operations.
So he was phenomenal. He stepped up as one of my mechanics. He did a fantastic job. I cannot say anything more against him. Dale he was solid the whole time. He kept on plugging along. Originally, the in-country partner said that the chair was ready to go, just with a few minor modifications. And by the time it got to Dale and they put Levy in it, it was like, oh no, and ended up basically tearing the whole thing apart and putting it back together. So that's the way it usually goes. But what an extraordinary accomplishment to put out 200,000 wheelchairs by Johnny and Friends. But it was fantastic, and to reach that milestone. So the next thing I wanted to go through is just kind of, our days were really full and inspiring. This is kind of our class clown. This guy takes more pictures than anybody I know. Marcus, he's what a great guy. He goes down there maybe twice a year. He's retired. He just enjoys going down there. He was the one in the last time we went. We told you guys about Silas. And Silas was the guy that was in prison, and Marcus was doing jail ministry. And when Silas got out of prison, he went back down to El Salvador, and Marcus went down there with him, got him into doing Wheels for the World trips. And so he goes down there every year. He goes down a few weeks before the outreach and spends time with him. So, I mean, it's fantastic. His wife had passed away, so he, nothing else going on at home. The other thing, we had the hotel that we ended up staying at this year. Our in-country partners talked with this other last time we were down there. We had some issues with our hotel. And they got us in this one. It's like for El Salvador. It's a five-star hotel. It was fantastic. It was beautiful. But they worked fantastic with us, and they gave us an extremely reduced rate, almost to where we were on the other place. But yet they were throwing good breakfasts at us. I mean, and dinners and everything. This was one of the areas that they gave us a room to eat in. This is where we did our debriefs every night. Every morning, we'd get everybody in a big circle. Danielle, I would get everybody going. Daniela would do my interpreting, and we would all come together and get the day on. It was so much fun to work with people like that. And if you want to have something hit you home, I don't know if you guys can tell. Who does that look like? Put a couple more pounds on it. My son. To sit there and you turn around and you see that is about enough to make you drop to your knees, and it freaks you right out. I mean, I wish I could blow it up. I mean, it was very. It brings it all home that at some point, you might have to take care of a loved one in a wheelchair. It brings it all home to you. And another one that had really tugged at my heart. Little boy, he could still walk a little bit, could use his arms good, and I think he was like 8 or 9 years old. And sorry, I'm afraid I'm going to hit something. Me and my Italian. The kid had MS, and the one mechanic that was working on it was telling me, he says, yeah, it's just going to get worse as he gets older, and he's going to start losing all of his functions. And that brought me back to our son Bobby that passed many years ago, is that I don't give up easily. And I wanted to fill that boy with as much excitement about life that I possibly could. So I grabbed me a wheelchair, and thankfully nobody took pictures of it because I'd probably get in trouble. I was show him how to ride a wheelie, and then we were doing races, wheelchair races around everybody and stuff like that. And to see the smile on the faces, and that's what it's all for. And I'm hoping it spurs the kid on to want to push past the MS.
We actually put non-tipping on, what are they called?
Wheelie bars.
Wheelie bars, so he could learn to do wheelies without tipping himself over and hurting himself. So
I'd lean him back, and he didn't like that too much.
So once he learned he got the tippy bars on, he was a little bit more confident with that. This is the little girl is Camilla, and her mother is Claudia. And this story just really touched me. One of our interpreters, Rachel, she was there when we went down to El Salvador last time. She's homeschooled, and she had to write a paper. So while she was there interpreting, she had to interview, I think, 3 or 4 families and write a paper on them after the outreach was over with. And she says, "You want to sit in on one of these with me?" And I said, "Sure, I'll come over." And so this was the mother and daughter that I got to sit in with on her. And the mother what got my heart about it was the mother was very inspiring and advocated so much for her child. When the baby was born, and I don't know all the technical terms, but the mother had Rh positive blood, the father had Rh negative blood. They didn't get the shot. She didn't get the shot that she was supposed to have, the RhoGAM shot. And so when the blood crosses, the brain doesn't develop properly, and other things don't develop properly as the baby grows. So when she was born, they thought she was a normal baby. They took her home, and about 3 months old, the mother noticed that she wasn't responding to her. You know, she could get in front of her and do things, and the baby just wouldn't respond to her. So she started taking her to doctors and stuff, and they said she's blind. Then they figured out the Rh positive, Rh negative, and that she basically had some brain damage and stuff from it. And they told her, you can't do anything for her. There's nothing you can do. Just let her lie, and you just take care of her. There's no hope for her. Well, the mother didn't take that as an answer. So the baby was blind, and so she went to an ophthalmologist, had some testing done there. They did some treatments, but they said she'll always be blind. Well, the baby can now see. Well, she's not a baby anymore, but she can definitely see, but they still call her legally blind. I mean, you can interact with her, you can talk and smile at her, and she just responds to you. She sees you. They said she'll never walk. She came in with a wheelchair, and we tweaked her wheelchair up, cleaned it up, put some new cushions in it and stuff, but we gave her a walker. The mother wanted her to have a walker so she could strengthen her legs, and the mother refused that she was going to be wheelchair bound all of her life. So we gave her a walker, and she wasn't real good at it, but she tried. And then she went to enroll her. She's 5 years old. They went to enroll her in school, and the school wouldn't accept her, just because she had so many disabilities that they weren't willing to take her on. And basically the mother says, you will take her, and you will take her at this school. And the mother says, I will come to school with her every day. So the mother goes to school with the child every day. The only thing the child knows her ABCs. She knows all of her numbers. She can't write. That's the one thing she has difficulty with. So the mother was looking into government programs or whatever to purchase her a computer so she could type instead of write. But it just really touched me that the mother did not give up. I mean, she could have walked away and said, okay, the baby's just going to lie there for the rest of her life, but she refused to take that as an answer. And I mean, the baby's learning in school, walking, can see. It was just, I don't know, it was just one of the stories that really touched me. We were able to tour the one and only, for now, Johnny's house. This is our in-country partner. This is Monica, and her sister Claudia is in the wheelchair. Yep. And that's the staff at Johnny's house. And Claudia, really, her story of why she's in a wheelchair really parallels to Johnny. She was swimming. Don't know the exact, if she was diving in or whatever. She was diving in, broke her neck, and she's quadriplegic. I mean, she uses her hand a little bit, but she really parallels to Johnny, and that's how she got involved with Johnny and Friends. But they've started this Johnny House, and this is where people with disabilities can get mental, physical, spiritual, and monetary help. They purchased this house. It's just in a neighborhood, and they purchased a house and revamped it. In the back, on this back side of the pool, they have 2 therapy rooms where kids or people can come and get physical therapy or occupational therapy. They use the pool for physical therapy. There was a table with chairs to sit in the pool. But it was just a very peaceful place. They do have some bedrooms there that people can come and stay, whether it's Johnny's executives that go down or other missionaries that come down to work at the place. There's 3 beds, but it was just a really neat place, and they've got a lot more they want to incorporate into it. They have a little store inside. They sell coffee. They sell pillows that some of the patients there make. They make little bags. I can't think what else they have. They have all kinds of stuff, crafts that the kids and the patients make there that they sell, and that helps support Johnny's house.
And they also they have a whole full kitchen where they can teach the people how to cook for themselves, or, to make themselves so that they can do things. They teach them computer skills and stuff like that. So, they help build them so that they can be a productive member of society.
So this is going to be a huge blessing to the people of El Salvador. The people that run it are true warriors. And they are just constantly loving on the people and tireless workers. We could contact them if we have problems in country. We could contact them any time of day. And we did. Brian will tell you more about Friday, but they were there for us every step of the way until like 1:30 in the morning. So, go ahead.
So while we were there, it was Donna's birthday, and they knew about it. So they actually made her a birthday. Well, it's not there in that picture. But they actually made her a birthday cake, so we had cake and ice cream for her and everything. So that was pretty cool. The picture here, this is, I get on the wall, it's kind of like the Last Supper scene. But you got Johnny here. No, Johnny's over here. I'm sorry, and her husband. And then other people in wheelchairs and whatnot. But it's just a really moving. The whole building is just really cool, really inspiring. So, winding down on the last day. Woof. The last day was, well, actually Thursday. Winding down Thursday, we had to go get our COVID tests. We were supposed to get them at one place, and that went downhill, so we ended up having to go to like an emergency room. They set it all up. We all went over there and went inside and went up into a room. All 16 of us went up into a room, and they basically sat you in a chair, jabbed you, and tested it. Before we left, in 15 minutes, basically, 15 to 20 minutes, all of us were done, knew our results, all of us were clear, and we were good to go. It was that easy. But it was a little bit on the stressful side, getting everybody moved into this situation. So Friday, our last day there, it was a Boilermaker. It was hot, and we had an older guy on our team, 78 years old, going to be 78. And he had been drinking water heavily all week. But I don't know if you guys know this, but if all you do is drink water, you don't get you just take out all the salt out of your body.
Because you're sweating so much.
You got to get some salt back into your body, your electrolytes. So this guy was going along, and the therapist said, can you get this done? He says, don't think I really can. I think I'm going to pass out. So we got him over to a gurney and had him sit down for a few minutes, and then he started throwing up. We're like, oh boy. So the doctor, the place we're at is actually a hospital, so there was a doctor on staff there. And he came over and he says, he think it's just, he's heat exhaustion. So, gave him some Dramamine to stop him from losing any more fluids. They gave him some water. I think they ended up giving him IV. No, they didn't.
Not there.
But they gave him a bunch of water and Gatorade and stuff like that, and he laid down for a few hours. And thankfully, Friday wasn't too hard of a day. Other than that, so we sat there, and they said, if he's not feeling better, you need to make sure he gets to a emergency room. Okay. So we got out of there, got back to the hotel about 4, and then at 5 we're supposed to go have a debrief and final dinner, our farewell, where we're going to give a debrief of everything that happened and go from there. Well, each night Donna and I would trade off. I would do it, she would do it, and for the debrief. And that night it was supposed to be my turn. 5 o'clock we went to go and went talk to him, and he's like, yeah, I don't feel too great.
I'm just going to stay back at the hotel by myself.
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
So we got everybody in the van, and they dropped me, my interpreter Daniela, and Paul, Dorothelina, and then another therapist got off the bus. The guy that was that got off, we all got off the bus, and Paul told the driver, "Stay right here. We'll be right back. We just want to go drop him off." So he said, we walk over to the hospital, and there goes the bus, and we're like, uh-oh. So that started a chain of events on that side of the house. Finally,
and we had no interpreter on the bus because he took both interpreters into the hospital with him. So nobody speaks Spanish, and
it was quite interesting. But we're at the hospital, and then finally they got came and picked up Paul and the interpreter, and one of the interpreter and I stayed at the hotel or at the hospital with the other guy, and that was sick. Well, they wouldn't let me in. They could only have one person in the hospital, so I sat out on the curb waiting, watching everything go by. And I walked in and walked around, and hey, you'd be happy to know that they have Gideons down there, and they have Bibles inside the hospitals. I got a picture of one. I should have grabbed it. I'm sorry. But anyway, so we're sat there, and this was like 5:15 when we got to the hospital. About 1:15. Well, during the night, they gave them 3 IV bags and 2 antibiotic bags. Just pumped them up, and they said, we think we ought to stay. He ought to stay here for a couple more days and everything. We're like, I was able to persuade the doctor that if we had a nurse on our team, which was Chris, that if we had any problems, we'd make sure that he wouldn't get on the airplane and go from there. She finally relented and made him sign a piece of paper. If something happened, it's not on her shoulders. So
because we were getting on the plane the next morning,
in the next few hours,
within hours.
So we sat there. I finally got back to the hotel about 1:30 in the morning, which we were supposed to get up at 3 and meet downstairs to get on the bus to get on the plane. So I'd been up since 5:30 that morning, Friday morning, and finally didn't get any sleep hardly until Sunday night at 4 o'clock in the morning. So it was a long day, 44 hours I think we figured out it was by the time we got there, but it was a long time. I cannot say more than enough about the Johnny and Friends headquarters that helped us out so immensely. I mean, Philadelphia, we got shut down because of, I guess, warnings or tornado warnings and stuff like that. So they shut our plane down. At one point, they had us on the runway for almost 3 hours, and at one point they said, "Yeah, we're going to have to go to Boston now," which we ended up going back into the place. Philadelphia shut down, and we sat there and do nothing. That's a long story short.
I'll put the numbers up on your phone. One thing though, you can go to the emergency room in El Salvador. You can get 3 bags of saline, 2 bags of antibiotics, an ultrasound. Is that about it? For
a 5-hour stay.
A 5-hour stay. For about, what was it? $535. Cash out the door.
Not going to get that here.
And also when we went to get our COVID screening, I've never gotten one here, but I hear they're like $150 or something like that. $33 per person.
Done.
So the numbers for the week, we ended up doing 278 recipients. 519 people heard the gospel that week. Out of those 519, 327 of them were already believers. 42 declined the gospel and wanted nothing to do with it. And 150 people received Christ that week. So, yeah. This was the counseling area. So after they come in, they get a number. We get a therapist and a mechanic to find the chair, work on the chair, fit them to the chair. And then after we're done with them, we send them to the back to missionaries. And it's David and his wife is Kathy Nepper. They're part of our in-country partners. They also have 2 other pastors back there, and they counsel with them. They get a Bible, and they get a Johnny book, so they can read the story of Johnny and how this whole organization became about. And so they go back there and they do the counseling and stuff, and then they're released after that. Brian has some pictures just of some chairs that are turned into us.
Oh yeah, about the airport travel, it was so bad they didn't have us going out until Monday afternoon. So we ended up having Hannah and Ben came down from where they live and picked us up and brought us home.
Yeah, you could have come and picked us up. That would have been nice.
That'd been nice.
There was nothing like that when you took us to Haiti.
I'm always amazed at the ingenuity of people in different countries and stuff like that. Hey, get back here. This was really neat. They weaved the back end of the chair. I mean, not great idea for hot weather, but I seen a couple other chairs that I wish I would have gotten pictures of. Unfortunately, like I said, I had a hard time finding time to do anything other than work on chairs because I was doing that. Then you had to deal with the damaged chairs. I mean, when you have a chair that travels thousands of miles, you end up getting whacked out chairs, broken chairs. Again, Don and I ended up getting into positions of support staff or mechanicking. So I mean, it was just good stuff all around.
And it was very different this time for me. I like being hands-on, and being a leader, you don't get to do that as much. So I really struggled with what I did down there. And I told Brian when we got back, I said, if we're to lead a team again, I would really have to consider my role because I really enjoy the sewing and the support and making the cushions, and that's me. And I didn't get to do that this time. And that was something I had to struggle and fight with. You know, I was where God placed me, and I was happy to be there. But I missed the hands-on. This is the one chair that I was able to work on, but I missed that hands-on with the people and working on the chairs.
And I'm in the same boat. I mean, I enjoy working on things. I really do. My problem is my body, as most of you guys know, is falling apart slowly but surely. But I mean, really what Don and I missed was the behind the scenes, what was going on behind the scenes, just for the simple fact that the whole headquarters team was there. So they were doing most of the stuff behind the scenes, and they understand that, and we understand that. So it was a little bit difficult to gauge how much we would like it.
To truly lead the team, because there was a lot of leaders from headquarters there.
Yeah.
So.
But all in all, I really believe everything that happened honored God, and everybody that was there honored God, and worked their butts off. But we did have a debrief with our Johnny and friends and everything, and they couldn't have been more tickled about how everything went. They were happy with everything that happened, and the one lady that books a lot of these things, said, well, I've got a few things in mind, and I'll let you know in a couple of weeks. So
They said there's 5 or 6 outreaches next year that don't have leaders right at this moment. So in a couple of weeks, she wants to get with us to see what our schedules look like, when we're available to go, or what country we're willing to go to.
So any questions? Fantastic. Guess we did our job. We didn't even have questions. I guess we'll close and... Oh. Yes. They stay at a storage unit out on the town somewhere.
Down in Isri.
Is it in Isri?
Well, it's part of Isri's complex, but it's not right at that Isri site.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. It stays there, and actually in October they're having another. That's what the other box was supposed to be for, even though we dug into it, because normally you only get maybe 200 of them, maybe 210 wheelchairs done in a week. And we did 278. So we dug. We were so crowded on the basketball court where we did it. We had more wheelchairs. They went and grabbed a whole bunch of other wheelchairs out of the box that they weren't supposed to bring. So we had wheelchairs everywhere, which was nice because we had a better selection. But then we're like, why do we have all these chairs?
So October won't have a good selection because we used them all.
I think we may have taken a few peds out of there.
A few extra pediatric chairs.
So, yeah. Anything else?
But out of the 240, so say we do 210 in a week, roughly, the other 30 goes to our ISRI in-country partners, and they have a physical therapist and mechanics and everything that work on the wheelchairs, and they're allowed to distribute those other wheelchairs that we don't use.
I would say ISRI, other than maybe when we went to India and we were out at the one in Hubli, that one, I mean, that was because that was within itself. That wasn't even a Johnny and Friends place, but they had a lot of wheelchairs and stuff like that, and extra parts and stuff like that they brought in. This ISRI, nobody, I don't think anybody's got anything on those guys. They've got 2 rooms. One room's got wall-to-wall pieces and parts, everything from wheels, hand grips, everything in there from different ones all the stuff basically that's left over after distribution, because we leave a lot of stuff, like if a person comes in has no legs, we don't put footrests on, they don't get footrests, so they stay there or whatever. So all that stuff is at ISRI. So they have welders, they have a whole carpentry shop where all the saws and everything like that. We're not allowed to get into that stuff. We're allowed to get into the parts and pieces, but not use their power tools, at least not yet. I'm working on that one. But I mean, they do a fantastic job of helping keep the chairs that are there that people are getting repaired and up to snuff. People can come back to them and get them repaired. Yeah. That was everybody, as far as I seen. I mean, I seen, I don't want to call it caste systems, but I seen 4 and up coming into the hospital, and there's really a lot of physicians. And as we traveled through towns, I mean, I probably counted at least 8 different just hospital, where it'd say hospitala or labs or stuff like that. They were all throughout the towns. I was really impressed with that. Wow. And actually, the one I think we went to was a children's hospital, because there was a lot
to get the COVID
test.
screening.
The
yes.
COVID test was actually like a children's hospital, And they had, because they had, lots of murals on the wall of young kids and stuff like that. And that's what was on the TV, kid stuff. So, I mean, and that's what you've seen there primarily. So, Yes. Yep. The Nepper family, which is the missionary family that's down there that works with Johnny and Friends. That and Johnny and Friends and some area churches are all involved in the follow up on that. They're all split. The names are split out between everybody
by where they live.
So people don't have to travel 2 hours or whatever.
And every day we would have a group of volunteers that would come, anywhere from 2 to 5 people, and they would come from different area churches that would be the ones that would be following up with the recipients and the ones that received Christ. The area church each took one day and volunteered at the outreach with us. And there are 3 pastors besides the Neppers that do the counseling in the back. So they've already met with the people, and so they have that connection with them.
Yes.
Just depends on the country. India was canceled this year. We were supposed to go to Peru in October. That was canceled due to COVID.
There's a lot of stuff getting. It's on a fly-by-night basis right now, whether or not everything's hitting there or not.
El Salvador's open. They canceled Argentina. So it just depends on where it is. I believe Thailand's going.
So.
They've got about 8 outreaches that'll be going out in October. So it just depends on the country that they're traveling to, whether they'll let us in or whether they won't.
And while we were there, we all had to wear N95 masks. I did my best. But, anything else? Anybody? Yes? I would say that. I mean, every time we've been to, I've been to El Salvador twice. You've been twice. I mean, even when I went to Peru, most of it was evangelical. I mean, I don't remember seeing hardly anything Catholic. I think the last time we've seen anything Catholic was mostly Argentina. Still had some Catholic influence, but that was about it. Anybody? Fantastic. Well, let's pray and I'll go home. Heavenly Father, I thank you and I praise you, Lord, for your love, your grace, and your mercy for us. I thank you, Lord, that you give us the opportunity to go out and help others and bring your name to the world. We pray, Lord, that you continue to love and guide us in all that we do. We go where you send. I pray, Lord, that you would also raise up others in this church that haven't gone. And I pray, Lord, that you give them the opportunity to serve you also in foreign countries. We pray, Lord, you bless every